right, good evening. We're here tonight to talk about arming yourself to safely handle a firearm. My name is Rob Duncan. We have our distinguished guests here tonight. My wife Janelle, my daughter Emily, and behind the camera is my son Andrew. Say hi, Andrew. All right, tonight we are going to talk about safely handling a firearm. And first I'm going to show you what you don't want to do. So let's take a look at who they call Fat Cat Newton here on the video.
You don't have loaded guns in the house. I know this thing is unloaded. That's why I've got that next. I shot 3 times earlier. And I mean, it's just a beautiful thing, you know. You see guys on the internet all the time shooting guns in the house, and you just don't want to be one of them guys pulling the trigger. Well, first of all, you don't even want to pull the trigger even if it's empty, because it dry fires and it's just horrible.
Alright, so you can see there that Mr. Fat Cat Newton didn't pay attention to some of those safety rules. And so that's why safety is very important when you're handling a firearm, whether it be a shotgun like what he had, whether it be a pistol or a rifle. So again, my name is Rob Duncan. I am your instructor tonight. I've been shooting since I was, I think, 12 years old. I took my hunter safety course. And so over 30 years of usage of firearms, whether that be shotguns, rifles, or pistols. In addition to the years of experience, I am a NRA certified pistol instructor, as well as a Texas DPS concealed handgun license instructor. I did also spend time in the military as a armorer, which is a weapons repairer. So I have lots of experience handling firearms, and I know how important it is to safely handle them. So we're in our classroom here tonight, a little makeshift classroom in the living room. We've got our screen. If anybody needs to use the restroom, it's right down the hall. Just like I said in the last presentation, everybody knows where the restroom is, so that's good. And today what we're going to do is we're going to try and explain and apply the rules for safe gun handling and demonstrate how we're going to handle a pistol safely. We're not going to use any rifles. We're going to use my little blue pistol here, a little fake pistol, to show you how to handle that safely. So several different types of firearms. In the video we saw Fat Cat Newton there was using a shotgun. There's also rifles which have either a single bullet that they'll fire and you have to continually reload it, or semi-automatic where there will be a magazine that you have to load bullets into. And then pistols, there's a revolver and a semi-automatic. In a revolver, you can usually have anywhere from 5 to 8 bullets that you put in the cylinder. And a semi-automatic will have anywhere from 5 to 20 or 30 rounds available in that type of firearm. Here we've got a picture of a pistol. Very similar to the pistol that I have here for my training purposes. And this pistol, we're going to point out a couple of parts on here that are important for you that we're going to talk about when we get to those safe handling rules. The first one is the trigger. As you can see, that's typically where your finger will go in to squeeze to be able to fire that gun. And what you want to do is make sure that your finger is off of that trigger unless you're ready to fire that. Okay? Most guns have some sort of a safety on them. A lot of the newer guns have a different type of safety in the trigger, which requires a certain sequence to fire. But on this particular gun in the display, there's actually a safety that you would use, and you would want to keep that safety on at all times unless you were ready to use it. But that's a typical location for the safety. Okay. Then we have the magazine, which would be in the bottom of the pistol. Typically right here is where that magazine would go. I have a sample of one of the magazines. This is a real magazine that you would put bullets into right there. This is what it looks like. Okay, and then you have a magazine release. Okay, and the magazine release is very important as part of ensuring that the gun is safe. You may want to drop that magazine or take that magazine out so that you can ensure that no more bullets go into the gun when you're trying to handle it safely. Okay, what are some reasons why you would own a firearm? Well, first of all, recreational shooting. Some people just like to go to the range and shoot. Some people are actually competitive shooters where they join leagues and they go out and it's a competition, and it really can be quite fun. For hunting, a lot of folks, typically the shotguns and the rifles are used a lot more in the hunting. So hunting is one purpose for that, provide food for your family that way. Another very important reason is the protection of yourself and your family. The Second Amendment guarantees that protection, and so a lot of people take advantage of that to ensure that they have a pistol in the house or a shotgun in the house to protect their family in case somebody was to break in. And then another reason might be collecting. There are some very valuable guns out there, and a lot of people like to collect those guns just to sort of show them off. So those are some of the reasons why somebody might own a firearm. Some statistics about firearms. So you hear all the time on the news about all of these accidents or people getting shot. And so just to provide some statistics from the NRA, today's firearms account for only 0.6% of all U.S. accidental deaths. So accidental deaths could be car accidents or slips, trips, and falls, things like that. Firearms are only 0.6%. Which is a very low number. And fatal gun accidents have actually decreased 61% over the 20 years from 1985 to 2004. So everybody's talking about all this gun violence, and they actually, those numbers have gone down. And then one thing to point out is these statistics show a decrease in accidents, and typically what I would say is that's due to an increase in people actually practicing safety and training safety. That's one of the reasons that I actually became an NRA certified trainer, is so that I can make sure that people that I know handle their guns in a safe manner. Some of the major causes of firearm accidents are ignorance or lack of knowledge. If you don't know how to use a gun, you're not going to know what some of those parts are that we talked about, and you're not going to know what the rules of being safe with a gun are. You might use common sense and figure some of it out, but if you don't know what a trigger is and you just play around with the gun, you might squeeze the trigger and it might be loaded, and that would definitely be a cause of an accident. And then carelessness is another one. And typically that's what you saw in the video is Mr. Fat Cat Newton there was just careless. He had a bad attitude about that. He thought the gun was unloaded. He didn't make sure that it was, and because of that, he didn't observe those safety procedures, and which we'll get to in just a second, talking about what it means to be safe when you're handling that gun. So some of the basic elements of being safe with this gun. Having a positive attitude. Safety is first and foremost when you're handling firearms. Knowledge is another important thing. I've known people that were scared of guns because they had no knowledge of them. They'd never used a gun before, they'd never handled a gun before, and once they got an opportunity to go and use that gun, they were able to be more comfortable with it, and when they got more comfortable with it, it really helped them better understand how they work and understand that a gun's not just going to go off while it's sitting there. And an important piece in safety is skill, and so it's very important if you're going to be the owner of a firearm to practice utilizing it. And when you're practicing, you want to practice those safe handling techniques, okay? So, practice, practice, practice is what I say. You should be practicing that all the time to ensure that you're safe. So what are those fundamental safety rules? Well, I'm going to go ahead and take out my pistol here, my little fake blue pistol. It's not a real gun, it doesn't fire, but I'm still going to observe some of those safety rules. Okay, number one, always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. Okay, very important for you to do. As you can see, I have this gun pointed at the floor. I'm not waving it around the room. I'm not pointing it at the camera or anything like that. I'm pointing it at the floor. I've heard some people say that, well, if you point it up in the air, that's okay. The only problem with that is if it fires, that bullet goes up, and what goes up must come down, right? So it's important to know your surroundings and point that gun in a safe direction, okay? Always treat every gun as if it was loaded. Obviously, this is a fake gun, but I'm treating this gun as if it was loaded. I'm keeping my finger straight and off the trigger, which is number 4 there. And I'm making sure that I hold onto it securely so that I don't drop it. I'm pointing it in a safe direction. I'm treating this gun, even though it's a piece of plastic and not a real gun, I'm treating it like it was a real gun. Another thing that's a fundamental safety rule is making sure you know your target and what's beyond. If you decide to go shooting, let's say you have some land in the country and you go out to shoot, you don't want to set up your target without thinking through what's past that target that I'm going to be shooting at. Is there anybody's house? Is there a road? Are there any animals? Anything like that. So it's very important to know what's between you and your target and what's beyond that target. It really makes a difference when you're trying to be safe. And then always keep the gun unloaded until you're ready to use it. You wouldn't want to load the gun up and then go jump in your car and drive to the range with a loaded gun. You would typically keep that gun unloaded until you got to the range, and then that's where you would go ahead and load it. Obviously, as a concealed handgun instructor, I'll tell you that if you're using the gun for protection purposes and carrying it concealed, typically it is going to be loaded at that time, and that's okay because you're actually using the gun. But you don't want to use it or just keep it stored in the house loaded. That wouldn't be safe. Any questions about these safety rules? No? Emily, could you tell me what do you think is the most important safety rule?
To not point a gun at something that you are not going to shoot at.
That's very good. We've seen some things in the news lately about kids that had toy guns and maybe a police officer told them to put that toy gun down and they didn't, and they were messing around and they ended up getting shot. So it's very important. That's a very good thing, is don't point it at anything, keep it in a safe direction. Very smart. Okay, what are some additional safety rules? One of the things you want to do is make sure that the gun that you're going to use is safe to operate. If you take out a gun and it's all rusty and it looks like it might be dinged up and banged up, that might be something you want to have a qualified person take a look at to make sure that that gun is safe to fire, because you wouldn't want to have any accidents with something like that. Know how to use the gun safely. If you've never handled a gun, I wouldn't anticipate that you just go buy one and go to the range and shoot it. You might want to take some courses to learn a little bit about that gun and how it operates. That's one of the things that the NRA does very well, is they offer classes like that for people to learn. Use only the correct ammunition for your firearm. You don't want to use 9mm ammo in a 40 gun, because it might fire, but it also might cause problems. If the round is too large for the chamber or too large for the barrel, it might blow the gun up. So you always want to make sure you're using the correct ammunition. Wear eye and ear protection as appropriate. I've got a couple examples here. You've got some clear glasses that you can put on when you're shooting to make sure that nothing goes in your eye when you're shooting. Also some hearing protection. Very important to use hearing protection, because a lot of times when you're shooting those guns, it's going to be very loud. I was in an artillery unit in the military and don't have very good hearing, but I still use my hearing protection because it's very important. Next one is never use alcohol and drugs while shooting. Well, you definitely don't want to do that, just like you don't want to use it while driving a car or going to work. So make sure that if there's going to be alcohol around, you probably want to make sure the guns are locked away safely. And then store guns so that they're not accessible to unauthorized persons. That's actually a law. You can't leave your gun out. If somebody broke into your house and took your gun, that wouldn't be very good. Or if somebody was over at your house, some kids or something like that, and you had the gun out on the counter where it was easily accessible and they thought it was a toy, that obviously wouldn't be a safe situation. So it's very important to always make sure if you have a gun safe to lock those up or to ensure that they aren't accessible to any unauthorized people, kids, anything like that. All right, well, let's summarize. So tonight's presentation obviously was on safety of handling a firearm. And we talked about having the right attitude and knowledge, get training if you need it, and then practicing. If you're going to handle firearms, it's very important for you to practice handling that firearm in a safe manner all the time. And then we talked about those fundamental safety rules, about not pointing a gun at anything unless you intend to shoot, not keeping your finger straight and off the trigger. All of those are important to safely handling a firearm. Any questions? No questions? All right, well, that's all we have for tonight. Thank you very much.